Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast, where we've got another excellent weekend of racing from Great Britain to preview for you. We've got more Group 1 action on the way in the form of the Sprint Cup at Haydock. It's a really good renewal as well. We're putting up our usual best bets at the end of the pod as well. Normally pays to follow those, although didn't last week. Hands up, we were not on our best form last week. It's always the way. You can't constantly keep banging them in. So we've had to draft back Adele Mulrennan this week because we were like, listen, we're needing some winners. Let's get Adele back. How are you, Adele?
All good, thank you. All good. I'll try my best. Hopefully I'll find a best bet winner anyway.
Yeah, no pressure. Jonesy, all good? How's things?
Yeah, not bad, thank you.
Steve Jones is back with us. If you're watching, sporting some sort of Argentina shirt, it looks like, Steve, but I don't know if that, not quite.
It's just a shirt, Tom, that's blue and white.
Is it? That's it. Simple as that.
Yeah, perhaps. Absolutely.
Yeah. And if you are listening to the podcast, then don't forget, please do let us know what you think. So if you like our content on the podcast, you can give us a review on your preferred podcast app. And if you're watching on YouTube, give us that thumbs up and subscribe, please. Now, an offer to tell you about. The ongoing offer, which we usually do, is still very much out there for new customers. But you also have another offer, which is the Bet 10, Get 15 offer with the Matchbook Betting Exchange. So you bet a tenner, you'll get 15 back for you to play with. You must use the bonus code INSIGHTS15. So that is INSIGHTS, then the digits 15 for the Bet 10, Get 15 offer. 18 plus. Be gamble aware. And talking of insights, if you're listening now and you want to go and read exactly who we're putting up and all the best bets, you can do so at insights.matchbook.com. You get that for all the sports, for the podcast preview and the racing one. You can head to insights.matchbook.com. You'll find my name, and that is where you can see all of our best bets. Right. On we go with the previews, and we're going to start with the feature, which is the Sprint Cup. That is the 3:30 at Haydock. It's a tight enough but interesting little heat, and it's fantastic to see that Starman is having another crack off the back of, well, I suppose, what was a slightly disappointing run last time, where his trainer thinks that the 6.5 just caught him out over in France. So let me give you the betting when I've actually got it up to date. Last time I checked, he was about 2.0 Starman. And currently, 2.0 for Starman. Creative Force is 6.0. Art Power is 9.5. Glen Shield is 11.0. Supremacy is 15.0. And then we are into the double figures. Right, Jonesy, where are you looking in the Sprint Cup, the Group 1 this weekend?
Well, you've got to start with Starman. He's been the best 6 furlong sprinter this year. He showed that in the July Cup, which I thought was a particularly exceptional race. They were all in their Dragon Symbol, Oxted, Creative Force, and you go down. It was just a very, very deep race. And in fourth was Art Power, who was only beaten less than 2 lengths by Starman in fourth. Tim Easterby's Art Power. Tim Easterby obviously won the Nunthorpe as well, so he's got a good crop of sprinters. And Art Power is one of those horses that I thought would definitely win a big race this year. And I've been a little bit disappointed with him at times, but I think today might be, or this race might be the right time to catch him. I think he's run some solid races without being good enough. He ran third in the Diamond Jubilee at Ascot when he was only beaten a couple of lengths, when he went very fast on soft ground. Then at Newmarket, again, he was up with the pace, but I thought the problem there was he was drawn much further towards the far side when the action was sort of unfolding on the near side, and Starman just picked them up late on. I think this is his perfect track. I think a sharp 6 suits him well. He's not quick enough for 5 furlongs, as he showed at Goodwood, a sharp 5. But this is the right track for him. I don't think he's got any problem with the ground. He goes on soft, but he goes on faster as well. So it's one last chance, really, for Art Power. I think it's just more or less a price dependent thing. Starman is the obvious standout, but at 2.0 in a Group 1, which is competitive enough. I don't think that's the way to be going. So I would be going win and place on Art Power.
At 9.5, win and place for Art Power. And you mentioned the ground, Steve. It looks as though we're going to have that rare thing, which is quick ground at Haydock. Who knew?
Well, as long as there's not a hole in the bucket somewhere up there and too much water goes on, has been known. But I would imagine, we're looking at quick ground, as we should be. It's especially in these sprints. I think it's slightly ruined when it's soft ground, because you want by definition you want the sprinters to be going quick, and that's what we should get on in the Sprint Cup.
Yeah, I don't think Ed Walker wants him to water. He said earlier in the week, if Kirkland waters, I will. And then he stopped and asked if we were recording. I was like, yeah, we are. He said, well. Adele, who do you like?
Well, Starman's he's far too short for me to back. And one horse that I would take out of the Numthorpe, which is arguably one of the best sprints in the world, is Amaratiana, who has been progressing quite nicely this year. They've actually ride him a little bit differently. He used to kind of always was ridden quite forward on the front end, making the pace, but now they're just starting to ride him a little bit more quietly. He just takes the lead. He won at Hamilton. All right, it was only a conditions race, but I think it was just a matter of like changing tactics and trying new things, and it certainly worked for him. And they did the same in the Numthorpe. He massively outran his odds that day. It was 40-1. He'd absolutely knock your socks off if you've seen him in the pre-parade ring in the paddock. He's a gorgeous looking horse. Probably was noted to maybe have been a little bit of an ungenuine character prior to his last two runs. He was as big as 50-1. I don't know how you can have a Numthorpe second as big as 50-1 at the opening betting for a race like this. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get how Glen Shield's ahead of him, or even Chill, who was behind him. I don't understand how he's so hugely priced. I still think there's a lot more to come from him. I really do think he could win a big race. He honestly looks an absolute picture at York, and if they ride him still quite quietly away, I think there's still a bit more improvement to come from him.
Would you go win and place, or just place, or
I'd probably go a very small win, and then I'd go place on him. What price was he?
He is a bit shorter now. He's 29.0, but I mean, still, look, I completely agree with you on him. I think I just couldn't believe he's the price he is when he ran such a good race last time. And the yard, feel that they've got something right with him this year. He looks a better horse. I guess maybe he's the price he is in a way, because he at York at the start of the season, he did finish quite a long way behind Starman. So people are like, well, he can't beat him. So that's why he's the price he is. But I think in the place market, and I'd have a small win as well, I think he's a massive, massive price. But I do think that Starman is still backable at 2.0. I think he'll go off odds on. So I think, if he's going to get his ground, even if they water a bit, be fine. He was always going to take a big step forward for his first start this season, which he has done. There's obvious why he got beaten in France over the extra half a furlong on testing ground. And this is his bag. And I think he's comfortably the best sprinter in the UK. And I know that... over 6. I know that this is a Group 1 and he's 2.0, but I can definitely see him going off shorter than that, and can make a case that he should be shorter than that. So I'd be happy to have him on side and a bit of Emiratiana as well, following Adele in there. Basically, do we want to add anything, people, to the feature, the Sprint Cup?
Only that I Starman, if you're looking for reasons to get him beat at this sort of price, but whether he wants a sharp track like this on fast ground, I'm not so sure. He didn't seem to be going anywhere in the July Cup until they hit the rise, and then he kicked in. So you are looking for slight holes in him somewhere, because he is a very smart horse who's unexposed and improving. But that's one thing I've got at the back of my mind.
Giles is along. Hello, Giles. He says Starman is far and away the most likely winner, but there are several lurkers further down the betting. And he has a shout out for Summergand, who's hugely overpriced. Great run last weekend. I mean, yeah, it was. He's been put up on this pod so often, this Summergand. And then none of us went for him last week, Steve, which was, there you go. It's a big price last week.
Yeah, he was. I backed him in the Stewards Cup that he won the previous year, but the ground went against him. And then last week, I just thought the favourite was very solid, and that's what happens.
Yeah, wasn't to be, eh? Right, that's our thoughts on the Sprint Cup. We move on. We go back now to the Superior Mile. So this is the first ITV race of the day, and the Superior Mile has good old Law Glitters. What a superb horse this boy is. He is 2.25. My Oberon is 4.0. Maydani is 4.5. 9.0 for Bell Rock, and Artistic Rifles is 12.0. Adele, straight back at you. Who do you like and why?
Well, my Oberon was a horse that I quite liked for the Strensel Stakes, but if I'm honest, I don't think he looked 100% in the parade ring for the race. He walks quite short in front. He doesn't look too bad when he trots, and he didn't overexcite me either when he ran in the race. Look, they've tried numerous different things with him now. He's coming back down to a mile and he's got blinkers on for the first time. So I presume they'll make use of having the headgear on, and they might ride him more forward, and I suppose he might be hard to beat if he gets on the front end. Lord Glitters, he's a fantastic horse, isn't he? He's hard to look past his form, and just think it's interesting he hasn't won over a mile since he won the Queen Anne, where he's a hold-up horse. He has to be held up. Danny knows how to ride him. He knows he likes to pass horses. He likes to get into a little bit of trouble, but over a mile, has he still got that kind of like potent turn of foot, which you would need, especially if something like my Oberon, who was clearly quite sharpish. If he gets out in front over a mile, he might be hard to peg back. But I'm hoping Lord Glitters he's still got that turn of foot and he can still do it, because I think he's the one the ball got to beat, really. He's
standout, isn't he? I suppose at the weights as well, given that he's carrying 9.3, whereas my Oberon's got 9.6 on his back and is rated a pound superior. But Jonesy, you like my Oberon?
Yeah, I do. I couldn't quite work out why the weights were as they were, because in the Strensel Stakes, that Lord Glitters finished second and my Oberon was fifth. Lord Glitters had a double penalty by the look of it, at 9.12, and my Oberon had 9.8. Well, presumably that was because Lord Glitters won a Group 1 in Maidan. Why the conditions? This is another Group 3 race. Why different? I don't know.
It's because of when the penalties have come into effect. So this one has moved back, I guess, because of the time. Is moved back to after March the 31st. So,
right. I thought it was year on year.
Yeah,
shows how much I know.
But it's weird. I agree that I had to do a double take and think, why the hell is Lord Glitters not carrying the same as my Oberon? But yeah, anyway, that's why. Go on.
Good. Like Adele said, Lord Glitters loves coming off a decent pace, is absolutely class when doing so. So 5 runners, even though Artistic Rifles likes to go for the front and Maydani can certainly press the pace, so there should be a decent enough pace. But like Adele said, he's best when coming through horses and coming through really late. And that's what he did at York, when I thought he just picked the pieces up behind Real World. And if he doesn't get the fast pace he likes, that's him. He will just finish when it's all over and probably finish like he did last time, a little bit too late. So I don't really want to be going with him at such a short price. And although my Oberon's got the weight turnaround, so he's £7 worse off for finishing behind him at York. But he ran all right at York without getting much room. And just as the race was starting, just as they were picking up, he did get a smack over his nose with one of the, I think it was Andrea Azzini's whip. And he threw his head right up in the air, as you would, because I remember when I had to give you a smack on the nose, Tom, and you weren't the same. The performance wasn't the same all day. So it's the same with my Oberon.
That was when that was after I'd run you out, wasn't it? In the cricket
yes,
match.
It was well remembered. Yes, I wish I'd done a better job, to be honest. But with my Oberon, I think you can forgive him that. Just about. I think that was a solid enough run. He ran very well behind Love in the Prince of Wales Estates, when again he didn't get the smoothest of passages. I'm willing to go in with him again, because William Haggis's horse, he's got a very good record when he puts blinkers or a visor on for the first time. And I'm hoping that'll turn My Oberon around. And if it does, he's got a good chance. I think there's certainly a horse in there who's up to Group 3 level. But it's a tricky race for me. So I wouldn't be going large, but I'll go My Oberon.
Okay, and I'm officially a no bet, but I just want to sort of qualify that by saying that I so nearly was backing Lord Glitters. When I realised that this is a Group 1 winner who's just got 9-3 on his back and is getting weight from My Oberon, he's a better horse than the rest of these. And I thought, right, how do we have this horse on side in probably a smaller field than is ideal? My Oberon with blinkers on for the first time, does that mean he'll go forward? Well, Maydani will probably go forward, and Artistic Rifles tends to go on as well. So all of a sudden he might get it set up to suit, but I just worry a little bit about how, he has to be ridden cold. He's got a smart turn of foot. When he won out at Meydan, he ran in a Group 2 and he was third. And then he ran in his Group 1 and he won it. And we did the sectional analysis of the two races, and it was so it confirmed what you thought watching the race. But they went that bit harder in the Group 1 he won, which meant that up against the same horses, which meant that he just got there in time, ended up winning half a length. So back in trip, they're going to have to go hard for him, and because it's a small field and it's not guaranteed, he's the horse we should be backing, I think, but I just can't quite do it because you can't guarantee that he's going to have the race one to suit. It's a long, waffly way of saying no bet, isn't it? It's pathetic. Sorry, everyone. So one shout for Lord Glitters and one shout for My Oberon. And if Lord Glitters does get to a fair bit bigger, then for whatever reason, then perhaps I'll have to have on side, but we'll see. Right, let's kick on to the next. This is the 1 mile 6 furlong handicap, sort of the same as the old Borough Cup we're going to come to, but this one's for 3-year-olds. So there you are. I thought this was tough. So this is the 220, and Valley Forge is 3.5. Vino Victrix is 5.5, 7.0 for Prayana, Ocean Line 8.0, 10.0 for Rosabad, and 13.0 Contact, and Time Wall Golden Flame is outside with a bunch at 21.0. Steve, you can kick us off here.
Well, you mentioned that they're both races were over 1 mile and 6, the Old Borough Cup, and this race very similar to the Ebor and the Melrose. The Melrose obviously being for 3-year-olds, and the Melrose was won by Valley Forge, who I thought that was a really good performance, because I thought Valley Forge cruised through the race, and David Probert just couldn't stop him getting to the front, and he got there way, way, way too soon, and just managed to tough it out. I mean, he is a really progressive stayer. That was his first run over 1 mile and 6 last time at York in that Melrose. That was his handicap debut. He's gone at £7, which I think is more than fair to win a race like that. I think he's still going to be well handicapped. You can see him stepping up into group races next season. And I think at 3.5, did you say? I think he'll go off probably 2.7, and I think he'll hose up. And I think there's enough pace in the race to take him there. The two Mark Johnson horses have led in the past. So has Tinwald down the bottom. Tinwald, incidentally, is the name for the Isle of Man Parliament. I've spent a lot of time on the Isle of Man, and the Prime Minister of the Tinwald is, or he was going back when I was last over there, he had an electrical shop. He probably does a better job as Boris as well. So, but anyway, I digress. Valley Forge is the one, and I think this is a very good bet.
If anyone is still with us, we can see what after my long-winded no bet, then Jonesy banging on about the Isle of, was it the Isle of Man or the Isle of Wight? Isle of Man. Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Adele, what do you want to add to Steve's thoughts on Valley Forge?
I thought it was a competitive race, but I'm just going to go on the horse that I think has put up the best performance, what I've seen so far, and that will be Valley Forge in the Melrose. David wasn't overly hard on him. He had challenges either side. He just looked like he had a really nice attitude. Andrew's been really patient with him, and I think his patience is really starting to pay off. He's got a good record in the race as well, which is a plus, and the £7 rise I think is fair enough as well. I was hoping that Vino Victrix would have been a little bit bigger for me to have played at the place market. He seems to be quite a versatile horse. I think can play into your strengths. He stays 2 miles, which is always a good thing for Haydock. And I was just hoping he would have been a little bit bigger price for me to have had a little go at him at the place market. His form from his Sandown win has actually worked out really well. There've been plenty of winners that have come out of that. Forms, I think, it's always a good thing to have on to know in races like this. But I think Valley Forge, I think he looks a really nice horse, and I think he should be able to take this on his upward curve.
At 3.5 on a David Probert, who's flying as his trainer Andrew Balding. I agree with everything that you guys have said about Valley Forge. He's the right favourite, but I did think Priano was, he was a bit bigger. So there was 9.0 when I made him as a selection, but still, look, he's 7.0. I'd play him win and place. I just thought the Sandown run where Ocean Line was the winner, and he got a really canny good ride from William Buick, where, I mean, you wanted to be on the speed that day at Sandown. Very little did win from off it, and Priano found himself in that position you can get into when you've got 12 runners. He was right up on the rail in a lovely position, and they all came round his outside in the race, but they didn't go that quick, and all of a sudden he found himself about third last, and then he had to wait for a run, and then he got going a little bit too late. So I actually thought he'd be even shorter based upon that effort. This is a big step up in grade, I know, but that was only his second start in a handicap. He'd already won in a handicap at Leicester. He's run okay on quick ground, so I don't think that's a bad thing at all. He definitely stays the trip based upon what he did last time, and I know most of these are unexposed, but this is just his second go in a handicap. I thought he still had a lot of upside. That run at Sandown wasn't as disappointing as it first looked. So Priano for me, and 2 shouts for Valley Forge. Right, on we kick to the September Stakes, which caught us out a little bit because the time changed. This was originally the 205, I think, but there we are. The September Stakes is the 240, a mile and a half for this. 2.0 is Hukum, Hamish is 4.0, Foxtal 11.0, Outbox 11.0, and Prince of Arran is 13.0. Right, Team Hukum first of all. So I know, Jonesy, you fancy Hukum. I know he's pretty obvious. I definitely think he's the one to have on side. It wouldn't be massive stakes, but I just think he is pretty far and away the best of these. He's got a penalty. The run at Newbury was really classy last time. I mean, I know he went off odds on, but that was smart. I like the way he did it. I think he's just getting better and better, and I'm not really concerned about the drop back in trip. He's already a course winner. He won in crazy style here as a juvenile from way off it, and I think he's just too good for these. And again, I think there's a case to be made for him going off odds on. So I'd be small stakes Hukum. I'd probably put him in. He'd be one I'd add into a few bets into some match but multiples probably. So Hukum for me, Jonesy.
Yeah, the only query I had with him is whether it was Hukum or Hukum, and you've gone Hukum. So I have no idea. But I'm going to go with Hukum because I think he's all class, and I think he's proven that. I thought maybe last time, because he was giving weight away and he might have been a little bit vulnerable, he does take a little bit of time to pick up, or he had done previously. But what he did in the Geoffrey Freer last time at Newbury, I thought was really impressive. He looked quality, and he had that race won really easily. I don't see the switch to the all-weather being a problem at all. I mean, he's won at Kempton. In fact, his first win came at Kempton. He's obviously related to Baid, who's been very good this year, but he's also related to a horse called Kasban, that's half-brother, who did most of his winning on the all-weather, and See the Stars is obviously a really good stallion, and his stats on turf and all-weather are very similar. So the surface shouldn't be a problem, and certainly this grade shouldn't be a problem. So an Outbox should give him a nice lead, and he's beaten Outbox before, and I think he'll do it again. I think he's a class act. It's going to be interesting. If he does win, as I expect him to do, be interesting to see where they go next with him.
Yeah, absolutely. He was. I mean, he was well fancied for a ledger once, wasn't he? Adele, who do you think?
I wouldn't be having a bet in the race. I think you definitely want to have Hukum on side. I know there was a lot of money for Hamish, wasn't there, when he was supposed to run in the E-ball, but didn't. So whether you kind of do you really want to ignore the fact that he was so well supported for one of the most competitive handicaps of the year? I don't know. But I wouldn't be having a bet personally. Not for me.
Yep, fair enough. Hakum, who is 2.0 right at the top of the betting, will do for Jonesy and I, and Adele will sit it out. But giving a good word for Hakum. I'm self-conscious about it now, Steve. Hakum. Let's move on anyway to the Old Borough Cup. So 1 mile 6 furlong. This is the feature handicap at Haydock, and betting as follows. So this is the 255 race that precedes the Sprint Cup. Top of the betting, you have got Global Storm, who's 5.0. Noble Masquerade is 6.0. Rajinski is 8.0. 9.0 Rhythmic and 10. Autumn War 11.0, as is Indianapolis. I'll give you the bigger prices if and when we get there. Adele, you want a couple on side here?
Yeah, I've got no Uke and Glen to cheer on, so I'm going to have to cheer a couple of others on, I think. I think if Holly Doyle get out on the front end with Noble Masquerade, carries no weight, 8 stone 2. She could be hard to peg back. He's been holding his own in kind of class 4 companies. He's obviously up in class, but he seems quite consistent enough. And I'd have to have a little bit probably on Rajinski. Is a horse that I quite like to follow at Haydock. He's Richard Kingscote always got a good record there. But All Right Sunshine, I think, is a massive price. For Keith Dalglish and Billy Garrity, I know claimers have quite a good record in the race. So do dual purpose trainers as well. Those that do well under both codes. This horse had a little bit of a freshen up, which I think will play into his strengths. And he's not a bad horse. I think being in a race like this could really suit him. All Right Sunshine. Billy Garrity, I suppose he'll be looking for his biggest win on the flat. He'll be going jumping this winter. But I think he's got a nice ride with All Right Sunshine.
That is
big place bet with him. He's big enoughly priced.
Oh yeah, he's 15.0. I quite like races where claimers have a good record, but this wasn't one that had struck me as such. But having looked, it is they're certainly in recent renewals. So, and I think he's the only claiming rider in it. So that's interesting. All Right Sunshine, as I say, is 15.0, and Noble Masquerade 6.0 for Holly Doyle, Eve Johnson Horton. Steve Jones.
The thing that struck me first about this race is there's not much pace in there. And Noble Masquerade, as Al said, is one of those that's likely to be up there. One that hopefully won't be too far away is the Trader, who has made the running in the past, certainly has been prominent in the past as well. And I think it's got a good record on fast ground. I think recently his form looks pretty appalling. He only beat 2 home when well beaten at the Shergar Cup, but that was on good to soft. Before that, he ran midfield at Goodwood on soft, and before that, in the old Newton Cup on soft ground again. If you take the runs on soft ground out, I think he's quite good. He beat Hockfeld, his stablemate, back in May at Hamilton on quick ground, and now he's a couple of pounds lower in the handicap because of those efforts. And he's likely to be well placed. If you go back to last season, he's got some good form against some decent horses. And he might look like he's out of form, but that might just be down to the ground. If that's the case, from stall 1, where he should be able to get a nice prominent pitch, I think he's overpriced. What was he, about 15.0, something like that? Fingers crossed.
The Trader is, 15.0 for Andrea Atzani and Mark Johnson. Anything to add to that, Steve? Just the Trader for you?
Yeah, just the Trader. I think it's a messy race. I thought Global Storm had the class, but again, he's best when not just being patiently ridden, but right out the back. And that would worry me about any of these sort of horses that need to come from the back. Nicholas T, who did me in the Northumberland Plate, the Rotter, he's interesting again, but again, he likes to come from way off the pace. And unless it's one of those races where everyone looks at it and says there's no pace, and then they all decide they want to go forward, I can't see it being strongly run. So hopefully that will help the Trader.
And I'm singing from a similar hymn sheet, Jonesy, but by no means identical, because I quite like Hockfeld for under Joe Fanning, whose last win came over this trip on quick ground. Well, I think it was at Newmarket. He's well treated off 97, and it's a similar angle. I think he'll sit and track because I think the trader's probably the most likely to go forward out of 1. And so my main play was going to be Rhythmic Intent, but the two things which he's going to crop up, I think, in a race like this. But he does seem better with a bit of juice underfoot. He's not going to get that, and he definitely wants to come from off it. He ran really well at York last time, where he just wanted more of a test, and he'll get that here. But absolutely certain that he doesn't want rattling quick ground, so that would be enough of a worry for me. So it's just going to be small stakes win and place for Hochfeld on a pace angle, really, because I think he'll give you a good run for it, given that he's going to be right up there. So just to recap those, and don't forget you can recap at matchbook.insights.com for all of our bets today. But I'll go Hochfeld, Steve's the Trader, and Adele Noble Masquerade, and All Right Sunshine a place. That's in the feature handicap at Haydock. Right, we kick on. And we go to the Lavazza Stakes. This is the 310 at Ascot. It's not as big a field as I was expecting this to be. So we've got just the 10. We're over 1.5 miles here. And Waran is 4.0. Alphadel is 7.0. The same price about Chalk Stream. Champagne Piaf is 8.0. Candleford is 9.0. Irish Legend 9.0. Staywell 11.0. And I'll give you the bigger prices of the final 3 if we get there. Adele, who do you like?
I'm going to go Talk Stream. Big enoughly priced for me to have a little play at the place market. Will want the strongest pace though, because he's quite keen. I'm hoping State of Bliss maybe might go forward, and Orifice, is it? Orifice? I'm hoping he might go a little bit forward. Orifice, because he is quite keen. He actually had earplugs in at Ripon last time out, which he was much better in the prelims because he can get quite hot. He usually has 2 handlers as well. So I think as long as he gets a strong enough pace, I think he's a really nice horse. He's really well bred. I'm just hoping Kieran gets a good pace for him to help him relax really more than anything, because he's got loads of ability. He's just still looks like a big baby, like he's still kind of learning everything about the job. So fingers crossed. I presume he'll have the earplugs in again. It did seem to do a good job at Ripon, so fingers crossed for kind of a similar run, really.
So that is Chalk Stream. Let me confirm that price for you. The colours of the Queen, 7.0. Kieran Fallon, William Haggis. Steve, who do you like?
Well, I'm going to go for the other Haggis horse, Candleford. It's only got 8 stone 8. It's a handicap debut. Really well bred, Candleford, a Kingman. The damned Dorcas Lane, who won a listed race, and that makes Candleford a half brother to Atty Purse, who won at Royal Ascot a few years ago for Roger Charlton, and then funny enough is in Spain now, I think. But Candleford has made a nice start, brought along nice and progressive. Manobo and Mojo Star were in the race that he made his debut in, and I didn't think that was a bad performance, a bad starting place. Then he went to Sandown and ran okay, when probably wasn't very well positioned, and last time was really impressive at Windsor. He's got to improve, and he's up against horses that are far more experienced. But William Haggis has got Adam Farragut, an apprentice jockey who's come across from Ireland to join him. And he had quite a slow start, but now he's really kicking on. And it's interesting that he's 5 winners from 21 rides for William Haggis, his boss. And I think he's sort of protecting that claim so he can win nice races. And this is quite a valuable race. And I think Candleford is a horse who's potentially very well handicapped. So I'm willing to take a chance on Candleford.
Candleford, who is currently 9.0. So there's the 2 Haggis horses going up. I'm going to be really boring and stick with Waran for Ryan Moore and Sir Michael Stout. I think he'll definitely stay this trip. It's his first go over it. He's versatile ground-wise. He won his back in maiden company on soft ground at Ponty, and then he was fine on quicker ground at Newmarket when he was no great price. But the really promising effort and the best bit of form, I think, is last time. He was really slowly away. Apparently slipped coming out the stalls, and he didn't get a perfect run into the race. I'm convinced that's the best bit of form on offer. And I know I said it a couple of weeks ago, but it shaped up like a really good race. You had Sinjari and the like in there as well. And I think a mile and a half will bring out the best of him. I'm just a bit disappointed he's 4.0, having been so comfortably beaten last time, but it would be a small stakes win only bet for me on Waran, who I think should improve for the step up in trip, and hopefully he gets a clear run through. Let's go back to the race at Kempton, or we're going to five minutes after Lavazza Handicap now. They've changed the times around. It all gets a little bit tight, but I always like this race, the London Mile Final, and it comes up at Kempton at 3:15. Betting currently as follows: Thunderclap, who is really progressive, and Safi Osborne replaces Oshie Murphy's 6.0. Hold Fast is 7.5. Stormcatcher, cheek piece for the first time, is 9.5. And 8.5. And Tahitian Prince is 9.0. Hieronymus is 11.0. And then we do get into the bigger prices. Right, Adele, you kick us off.
I'm going to stick with the favourite, Thunderclap. I think Safi's got herself a really nice spare ride here, and she's a great rider, and she's well worth a claim anyway with £5. So given a £5 allowance gives him every chance at the weights. He's progressing nicely. Obviously likes it at Kempton, so it's kind of hard not to stick with him. I just thought maybe Charla might be one for a place bet. Another horse that likes it at Kempton, still quite lightly raced this horse. Won a London Mile qualifier last month, not that long ago. So I think a nice little place bet on Charla. And I think I'll stick with the favourite, Thunderclap. I don't think it's badly priced for a win bet.
So, yeah, Thunderclap is a 6.0 and Charla is 26.0 for George Rook and Roger Teal, who she won last time, and Roger was convinced that she was far too big a price, and he was quite right as well. The 3-year-old Charla. Steve, I agree with you, but you can make the case.
Well, I think it's a tricky race, but I'm going with Tahitian Prince, who's been really progressive since cheap pieces have gone on, and particularly likes Kempton, which is a big thing. A bit slightly concerned by stall 12, which is not ideal. Ross Orion takes the ride. I presume Sean Levy's been riding, but there's so much racing around at the moment that on this day that Ross Orion picks up the ride. He is riding really well. And Tahitian Prince was only just touched off at Doncaster last time. Maybe a little bit unlucky that the winner made most of the running and Tahitian Prince couldn't quite get up. But that was still a sound effort of a horse that's in the top of form that he's ever been in. So, yeah, I think he's in a really competitive race. I'm going to go with Tahitian Prince.
Yes, and I agree. I think Tahitian Prince is a really solid play. I think the stall 12 is, it's probably not ideal, but I'd always, as long as he can get a half decent position, I'd still rather he was in the straight, challenging, down the wide outside rather than ducking inside. So he should not the wide outside, but down the centre of the track. And I like the fact that he's got good form at Kempton, and it's just been so hard to win from off it there that I still think that there's a good chance he'll get over and get a decent slot, because that's how he tends to be ridden, and actually end up in an okay position. And yeah, I think returning to the all-weather, he ran really well last time, but he's ever so progressive, and I thought there was still a bit of juice in that price. I've got not a huge amount to add to what you said about Tahitian Prince. I really like Thunderclap, and I think he's incredibly progressive. I just have a slight concern about the change of jockey, nothing to do with Safi Osborne, but he can be really tricky, Adele, and before the race, so he tends to get mounted out or in the chute, and then he can be really keen on the way down. And I just wonder, she's really good, Safi, but when a different jockey who doesn't know the horse so well goes on, and I know there's no weight on his back, which is why she's on, but I don't know, that's just a slight concern for me. But like you say, she's well worth her claim, isn't she?
She's also like a very good horsewoman. She's done a lot of eventing, so she'll be used to riding quite quirky horses. That wouldn't be too much of an issue for me at all. I know when I was riding, I usually got the quirky ones because I think obviously with a female touch, it kind of works in our advantage, and that wouldn't bother me at all.
That is a thing, isn't it? Genuinely,
Yeah.
like some horses. Why do some horses get on so well with female riders? You do see it.
You
It's
just
a funny
sit
one.
quite quiet and you fill them with a bit of confidence, give them a nice little pat. You don't see that many lads when they get on initially make too much of a fuss of them when they first get on and kind of reassure the horse and give them a pat. Whereas a lot of girls do, you know, they get on and they give them a little stroke and a pat and just kind of puts them at ease straight away when you get on them.
Yeah, I'm going to go small stakes on Tahitian Prince, Charlotte and Thunderclap for Adele, and also Tahitian Prince for Steve. That's in the London Mile final. And the last race we're going to look at is a 3:45 at Ascot. This is over 7 furlongs. Via Serendipity 6.0. Cliffs of Capri is 7.5. 8.5 for Mystery Smiles, Bashir 9.0, documenting 9.0 as his Top Secret, 10.0 for Ripoff, previous course and distance winner. Then we get into the double figures. Steve, you can kick us off on this last one.
Yeah, I don't see a huge amount of pace in this race either. Ripoff, really interesting horse because he's got a great record at Ascot, especially over this sort of distance, 7 furlongs. But he does love to come from off a strong pace. I think he won the Victoria Cup, was it? Or the International, one of those a few years ago. And missed last season and came back last time at Sandown. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. But I don't see the pace being ideal for him. And I've come down on Maxi Boy, who's got a bit of an inconsistent profile. But you go back last season, he was 3rd in the Superlative Stakes, the Group 2 2-year-old race. A couple of years ago. Only ran once last year and has taken a little bit of time to find his form this season. I thought the run at Newmarket when second to Quintilus was a good effort. I thought that was all right. And last time, I don't think he truly stays a mile. So back to 7 furlongs on quick ground, a horse that is potentially got a decent handicap rating, so I'm going to take a chance. But it's a really tricky race. I thought, didn't think a huge amount of these were in the top form. And Maxi Boy is again, I'd say it could be a messy race, but I think he might just be in the right place. So Maxi Boy for me.
12.0 for Maxi Boy. I fancy one quite strongly, nearly best bet material, which is Top Secret, whose last win came at this track off a mark £10 lower. Or, you know, this is a much tougher contest. He ran really well at Newmarket, and then they tried him over a mile, and there was a bit of doubt as to whether or not he'd see it out on pedigree for all he'd been staying on at Newmarket, and he definitely did. He was beaten by a handicap debutant called Nini's Choice that day, and he was definitely the best horse in the race, Top Secret, but he just raced on the wrong part of the track. All afternoon, he had to be off the near side rail and challenge towards the centre of the track as much as possible, and Martin Dwyer found himself trapped in a pocket. He had to challenge towards the near side, and he was beaten a nose. And I mean, for me, definitely should have won. He went up £2. He's back at the scene of his last success, and I think he's very interesting at 9.0. So he's not the best bet, but he's one that I'll definitely be going after. I don't think it's been taken into account really that he raced on the wrong part of the track at Newbury last time. So Top Secret for me. And Adele, you can finish off.
I thought this was a really hard race, and Steve's already said that quite a few of these horses like to come off from a strong pace, and there's just not going to get the pace, I don't think, in the race, which is a shame. So many of these horses like it at Ascot as well. I've tipped Cliffs of Capri quite a few times, and he's always come quite good. But I think Via Serendipity and Hayley Turner, they've got such a good relationship. I'm hoping only the £4 rise for his latest win will be. Is not too hard on him, and he definitely, of course, made the most of a reduced mark to win last time out. But look, I wouldn't go wild in this race. I think they could go slow, and then probably it'll turn into a sprint. It's not going to suit a lot of horses, but just being quite boring, I'll probably stick with Via Serendipity.
Via Serendipity, who is 6.0. Would you go win and place at that price?
Yeah, I think you could do it. That definitely, yeah. Via
Serendipity for Adele, and that's it. That's all of our ITV contest previewed. So we'll come into best bets now. Weekend best bets don't have to be from the races that we've previewed. You can go anywhere you like if you want to. And remember that full bet recaps are available at insights.matchbook.com, and all prices are correct at the time of the recording. Insights.matchbook.com for all of our best bets in every horse that we have put up. Steve Jones, your weekend best bet, sir?
Valley Forge. I think it'll
Straight
go off
in.
a lot shorter as well.
Not hanging around there. Valley Forge for Steve. Adele, your best bet?
I'm going to go to Thirsk if that's okay, because I actually do okay when I see Yorkshire.
I love it. I had a fee. I thought Thirsk. There's a chance Adele goes there. Go on. Who you got?
It's going to be at Haydock, but Mossbourne, who won there at the last meeting for David Barron, he's a 4-year-old, but he's a big raw type, and I can see why he's probably took so long to kind of find his feet. But he's certainly found it now. He's really big, and he's actually quite keen. But I thought he could easily go again. It wasn't the greatest of races that he won, but it's not the greatest of races again. And I could easily see him backing up that win from last time. So course and distance success again, I think, for Mossbourne and David Barron.
What race are we talking, Adele?
I think he's in the 3:25. I think
3:25. Yeah, Mossbourne.
Bearing in mind, it took till August to kind of to run from his debut, so in January. So not his debut, like his reappearance run of the year. So I think he's definitely needed this time to kind of fill out into his big frame, and he's clearly David's got him right now. So I think he's a horse to keep on side for the remainder of the season anyway.
That's the 3:25. I am going to mention one at first, just because this horse has been in the tracker a while. It's Noble Dynasty, who was second to Muta Sarbet last time. He runs in the 4 o'clock, hasn't run for 144 days. My concern is that he's going to be a really warm order towards the top of the betting. And just looking at how the race shapes up, I mean, Boland Park was a good winner last time, but I don't think is of the same sort of quality. And a few other horses have been a touch disappointing in there. A boy named Ivy is ridden by an absolute genius called Paul Mulrennan, so that might end up shortening the price a little bit. But basically, if you can, even if you were getting sort of 2.5, I'd be interested, because I think he should be a really warm order. But I'm just concerned because of the level of that form, he'll be very short. So it's just an honourable mention if you like. Starman's my best bet. Very boring. 2.0, job done. We're there. Adele, thank you very much indeed.
I haven't been robbed either. There was a dark figure walking behind me with the hood up. I apologise, it was Paul.
It was Paul. Now, at least you've spoken to him today, because normally we're like, have you spoken to Paul? You're like, no, I haven't spoken to him. There was debate.
There's tips in the night.
At least there's proof that you actually live together. So we were doubting that, but there is proof. Steve, thank you very much, sir. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone at home for watching along. Next week, just to flag up for you, we've got a couple of pods. It's a really busy week. Doncaster. Are you going to be there, Adele, at Doncaster?
No.
Okay, no problem. Well,
I'm having a couple of days off.
That rather fizzled out, didn't it? Great. So we've got Donny next week. We've got a pod for you Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and that's going to be previewing the first, days 2 and 3 there. And then Thursday at 6:30, we're going to be doing St. Ledger Day and Irish Champions Weekend as well. Steve, thank you. Adele, thank you. Go to matchbook.insights.com for the recap of all the best bets, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.